Hello, everyone, and welcome back to day two of the Pineapple Support 2025 Mental Health Summit. I'm Leah Tannett, founder and CEO of Pineapple Support, and I'm really glad to see you here today. So the theme for this year's summit is sexual education for the sexually educated, the mind-body connection. Over the next few days, we'll be exploring how sex, pleasure, desire, and intimacy are deeply connected to our nervous systems, mental health, identity, and overall well-being, especially for those of us who work and live in sex-positive spaces. This summit is made possible by our presenting sponsor, F2F, and by Pornhub, Reveal Me, Strip Chat, and Night Flirt. Your support allows us to continue offering education resources and direct mental health support to adult industry communities. Pineapple Support is entirely donation-led, so if you're able to support our work, you can donate at pineapplesupport.org. Every donation helps us provide therapy, support groups, and mental health resources to those who need them. And if you find yourself needing support, please reach out. Pineapple Support was created for this very reason, so you don't have to navigate things alone. So today's focus is a view of neurodivergent sexuality, which fits so naturally within this year's theme, the body-mind connection. For neurodivergent individuals, sexuality is often shaped by sensory processing, masking, disassociation, communication differences, and social expectations, all of which directly impact how the body experiences safety, pleasure, intimacy, and connection. Today's sessions invite us to explore sexuality through a neurodivergent lens with nuance, compassion, and practical tools, moving away from pathologizing differences and towards understanding, empowerment, and self-acceptance. So, our first session, a view of neurodivergent sexuality. This explores how masking sensory processing differences, integration, and social cues can shape sexual identity and sexual expression for neurodivergent individuals. And I'm very pleased to welcome Rainier McCall, and I've got the name pronunciation wrong.
That's okay.
Rainier is a licensed mental health counselor, qualified supervisor, and EMDR consultant, specializing in complex PTSD, religious trauma, disordered eating, neurodivergence, dissociative disorders, LGBTQIA2+ clients, couples, and individuals working in the adult industry. And they're known for their deep compassion and trauma-informed approach, and they bring both professional expertise and lived experience as an autistic person navigating C-PTSD and attachment work. And now I shall leave it up to you.
All right, everyone. Yes, we love Pineapple Support. I'm so glad everyone is here. I'm so glad for all the sponsors and everyone who's checking in. All right, so we're going to be talking about a lot of things. So please, first of all, I would imagine a lot of neurodivergent folks are here, or they're here for other people they know. So with that being said, please accommodate yourself. Please, please, please. So that could mean, you know, you're not going to offend me. That could mean you kind of hit a point with my presentation and you're like, all right, that's enough, and you leave. Um, or you want to turn captions on, or you just don't want to chat. You do want to chat a lot. You want to ask questions. You want to do a variety of things. So please do not pressure yourself to do anything. I'm hoping that this is good information. You know, these things are recorded, so it's not like the information will go poof into the great beyond. So first things first with that. Okay, as for me, I did a great intro, so I will not repeat too much about it. I am Florida-based, so that's me, therapist over here. Yes, I am autistic. I also have OCD and a fun little smattering of chronic physical issues that tend to go into this nice little blob of experience that some of you might be familiar with. So at any time, if you're like, what did you mean by that? Ask. Sometimes what I think in my head and what I'm trying to communicate to y'all is not always going to perfectly translate. So I'm pretty good usually at implementing the Q&A questions into what I'm talking about. I'm able to get myself back on track and stuff. So if something just pops into your head, I'd rather, if you're the type of person who something pops into your head and then it flies away quickly, I'd rather you say it. Don't worry about interrupting. That's not really a thing here. So yeah. So most of my clientele are neurodivergent, mostly in the adult industry, um, multiply marginalized, a variety of experiences. Also, a lot of people that have not had a great time in therapy because of strict viewpoints about things. So I try not to do that. That's not what I'm interested in. Um, my whole everything we're going to be coming from today is reducing shame. So we are going to be talking about what impacts sex and sexual health and communication. If you see yourself in the things I'm talking about, this is not meant to be, I'm doing something wrong, but more like, oh, that's me. What do I want to do with that information? Do I need to do anything with that information? Um, so we're going to be covering a few things. Um, Initiating sex. No, I'm not going to be obviously teaching us how to do that per se, but just some little tidbits around that. Um, the nuances that us neurodivergent folks can have with that. Many different types of masking, not just social masking, but masking of kinks, masking sensory reactions, um, misunderstandings around flirtatiousness, um, sensory problems with items potentially involved in sex and intimacy, communication stuff. So this was one of those that hopefully no one is like, this is one of those that I didn't really make a PowerPoint for. So it's going to be a little bit of me yapping, a lot of me yapping potentially. So if you like to have a visual cue to what is being said, I really encourage you to put the captions on because I usually try to make sure we have a visual cue, but yeah, fun fun circumstances regarding, falling ill after Thanksgiving made that less of an accessible thing to me. So, yeah, we will. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of it. I always kind of say this. We're going to be focusing on general neurodivergence, and that can mean typically two things to people. The big neurodivergent umbrella or a sub umbrella of that. So neurodivergence really does involve any divergent way of thinking, which, as we're learning, is much more people than not. So this could be OCDers, folks with Tourette's, folks with skin picking, folks with PTSD, TBIs, and then that umbrella that a lot of us think of when we think the word neurodivergent is usually ADHD and autism. So I'm speaking a little bit more to that tiny umbrella, but knowing that a lot of other communities in the bigger umbrella are going to share these overlaps. So hopefully things come together and fit and make sense. So, all right. First, we're just going to jump into it. We're going to get right into topics around initiation of sex and intimacy. So if we're going kind of a linear way, which I wouldn't really say sex and intimacy are always linear, but I think you get what I'm saying. Let's start with the desire styles. If anyone is familiar with those, yay! If you're not, yay! You'll find out in a second. There is a great article about it, which if I can coordinate myself to get my act together, I can probably put in the chat. It comes from a larger book, I believe called Come As You Are. So that's a very, just basically looks like giant genitalia on the cover, so it's kind of hard to miss. Fabulous book, fabulous article, but it talks about two desire styles. So first is spontaneous desire. kind of what it sounds like. This could be somebody who, as they just go around the day, it may not be hard for them to have turn-ons. They might like see something in a show, somebody winks at them. Like there's not a lot of steps that their brain might need to go into to want to seek that out or respond to it. Then there's responsive desire, which responsive desire is typically after some built-in awareness of, okay, this person is showing interest in me, and now, there's a bit of flirting or a bit of this or a bit of that, like almost like chunks of processing of like, okay, now I'm interested. Um, so I share that to just kind of give a little bit of a foundation for what we're going to talk about. Um, a lot of neurodivergent folks struggle with initiating sex and intimacy and responding to it. This is not because there's anything wrong, it's just because there is so much loaded social cues stuff. Oh my God. It's just like passing right in the air. Like if you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't. There's timing. There's all this stuff that goes into it. Um, so a lot of times what I notice is that neurodivergent people struggle with either being maybe too clear or not clear at all. Um, so, for instance, in our mind, we might think, okay, I've just like touched this person on the shoulder in this certain way, or I've made a little joke, or I've called you like handsome 15 times in the hour. I am letting you know I'm interested. The other person might, though, be like, what? Like I got the other side, you're very complimentary today. So it also depends on who we are involved with too, and how they pick up on cues too. Um, or I've worked with many of folk in couples counseling and, polycule work and stuff where somebody is literally coming up and being like, I want to have sex now. That's okay, but that may not communicate to the other person sexiness. They might just be like, oh, kind of this utilitarian ask. All right. So why I talk about that is like we want to unpack from this. This is a very soft spot and tender spot for a lot of people. And I'm not going to act like I have a perfect answer today. It's more like let's get it out in the open and talk about it and see if we can see ourselves in any of these examples. Um, because this is not something that we're taught, right? Like, if we all think back to our health classes, although, this is international, I'm more US focused, which very limited health and sex ed, like, not good. AKA, don't have sex. That's what you get taught. Don't. If you do, you will explode. But I guess if you have to, maybe you can use a condom. No one's talking about consent. No one's talking about picking up on other people's comfort. No one's talking about let's have those pre-discussions so we're not just in the moment and then what's going on? How do we tell somebody we are interested? None of these conversations are happening. So we usually cobble it together from porn, movies, what our friend told us some years ago from a story, and that's where we're kind of left. So I've seen a lot of concerns around this, which is why I wanted to bring it up today. It may be a strange entryway into the topic, but I thought it might be helpful, is to have those conversations, you know, and, hey, partner, hey, person, is how I am initiating with you feeling like initiating? Same thing. Okay. So I think just bringing that topic up of let's ask our people, let's ask ourselves, like, do I feel like sexy and cool when I'm initiating? I bet a lot of people would say no. Now, do you need like what is feeling sexy? Oh my God, that could be a whole other topic for a different day for like 5 hours. I'm not saying that you need to feel that, but like, is what you're doing feeling authentic to you? Do you feel like you're copying and pasting from someone else and it doesn't feel authentic? And is it working in your life? Like, or do you feel like you're getting feedback of feeling rejected, not responded to, people are confused in what you're doing, and then frustrations happen. So I highly recommend just working on that and just taking it at face value, because a lot of times we can just go inwards and be like, oh, I was rejected. And it's like, do we even know if we were? Or did somebody just be like, these little mysterious cryptic codes that you're dropping at me or not? Communicating to me that you're interested. Because a lot of times what we think is communication and is clear may not be. Yes, even us neurodivergent folks who usually prefer to communicate directly sometimes have our mystery moments. And let alone the whole other topic I'm not going to open a giant door on is if folks have like religious trauma and stuff, then this may be a really like hackles up topic of sex and sexuality and what's comfortable and am I allowed to have pleasure? Am I allowed to communicate that? Is it okay to say I'm interested in something or does it have to be a little like wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Okay, then you initiate, not me, kind of thing. So, yeah, yes, so many layers, exactly. That's why I was like, not that people want me to go, blah, 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 for like 5 million hours, but I do feel like there's a lot of topics that we're probably just going to like pull the yarn ball a little bit, but we're not going to conclude perfectly today as much as I would love to do that. So we've checked out the desire styles. We've talked about initiation. Um, let's start talking about masking a bit. So I won't dig into this one too much unless folks want me to, because this one could be a little bit triggering, but I do think it's a good topic to bring up, even if for a moment. So if you need to take a second, please do. But there's a lot of masking around social pressure of how us neurodivergent folks may end up feeling like we're seen by other people, especially members of the adult industry, former, current, etc. Um, I'm retired, so that's a whole other topic, anyways. Where people maybe feel like the only way for me to be a human is in my sexual or flirtatious state. So it like essentially being like, this is the only acceptable way for me to be seen as a person. So even when I don't want to do things with people or respond flirtatiously or, have a little laugh, a little cutesy flirty, feeling like you have to. Um, because people have either grown to expect that or sometimes we find our role in the world to be that because other people have maybe rejected many different parts of us otherwise. So I just want to encourage thinking about that because masking can occur aplenty around sex and intimacy. We'll go into some other pieces, like I mentioned earlier, but I thought that this was too big to ignore. So like I said, if people want to go more into depth on that, that's fine. But I did want to just invite that, So if you find yourself feeling expected to play a role of flirty, sexy, always interested. Okay, I see that someone relates. Yes, it's important to think about because unmasking work, yeah, I can repeat that. So just to summarize what I was just last saying is that masking is not just this social thing, right? Like, okay, I want to rest my face, but in society, I'm like, oh, smiles, eye contact. But masking can also be, I have felt so put into a role of I'm only like a valid person when I'm in this like sexy, flirty state, because neurodivergent folks tend to have a lot of this where people have rejected so many other parts of them. Um, that they're just like, I only like you when you're like flirty or sexy, especially adult industry members, because people may see you in that role and then say, you're always this role. And then people may find themselves almost like typecast into this expectation. And then you might find it hard to be like, you know what? I don't want to flirt back with you. I'm not into you. I don't feel like having a laugh. I don't want to accept your drink. I don't want you to touch me on the shoulder. But if you feel that internal roll, sometimes it almost feels like it's just activated. And some of us have had this maybe from high school, middle school, like way early on when people are like, I only like you because of how you look, or, other aspects of intimacy. And then you kind of feel like all the other parts of you are just unseen because I think we all know here, if we're here, neurodivergent folks aren't often accepted. It's like, oh, you're reacting. Oh, that's too loud. Oh, blah, blah, blah. There's a thing called like gaslighting autistic folks. There's like a really good infograph, which if I also remember that, I will link it. Where it's like all the things that society says that make us feel like we're out of our mind. Like, oh, that wasn't so loud. Why are you overreacting? What's the problem? Oh, God, this again? Why do you need so many things in your bag to bring? Wearing headphones again? It's really not that loud. Like, all this shit. So if we're used to getting nitpicked to such a degree, I'm just mentioning if this happens to be one role that we've played, we can have some masking pieces for that. Yes, this is a fair comment. Ability to mask can make the different types of sex work easier, for sure. I think it's about like, can we make sure that we turn it off when we need to? Right? Because sometimes the blurred line of like bringing it home, like I've had many people talk about maybe finding comfort and security in essentially their you know, all persona, like adult industry persona that sometimes they're like, oh, I'm home or I'm alone or I'm with my friend. I'm not, oh, hold on, click the gear back to me not as that. And I'm not saying that they're complete separate, distinct things, but yes. Um, so that I'm glad that people are okay with me having brought that up because I was like, I know that's kind of a complex topic. We may not dig a lot into it, but I just want people to know that that is a thing that exists and to keep eyes on it. Because a part of unmasking work is making sure that we're authentically showing up everywhere that we can. I always reiterate, as is safe. That is the most important part. I'm not going to tell people, yeah, let's all unmask and tell people no and have RBF and just do whatever we want because sometimes it's not safe. Many times it's not safe for people of color. Times it's not safe for undocumented folks or whatever. There's a bajillion varieties of reasons why it's not always safe. But when we can, there's also, let's just have a real conversation. Masking of kinks. Masking of unique sexual interest, which may sound like kinks, but sometimes it's a little different. We'll get into that. So, neurodivergent people, this is a big special interest of mine. So, we're having like a meta neurodivergent moment here. Um, a lot of neurodivergent folks are extremely kinky, whether it's sexually kinky or just kink as just a means to an end, or they're not really enjoying it as the sexual piece, but more just as the sensory experience, immersion, sensory deprivation, whatever the case may be. We are overrepresented in the kink world. And I would imagine most people here probably have, hopefully, a little bit of pride in that, a little bit of awareness about that. But sometimes when it comes to personal life, because obviously in sex work, it's like you can capitalize on kinks pretty well. It's like, this niche market, hell yeah, I'm happy to do that. But then in personal life, some people will have kinks and then they're not sharing it with whomever. Maybe because it's a little different. I'll give a couple of examples and maybe that'll drive it home. Um, a lot of neurodivergent folks have a preference for solo play. Like, they like the privacy. I don't want to be perceived. I've heard that a lot around that. I don't want to be perceived. And then we'll be like, well, I'm acting fucking weird because I have a partner and I'm sitting here masturbating. And what's wrong with me? And I'm like, hey, newsflash, nothing actually. There's nothing wrong. Now, do you maybe want to communicate that this is a preference? How would you like partnered play to be? Do you even want partnered play? I don't know. And side note, if we have any aspectrum people, asexual, gray ace, unsure questioning, I highly recommend the YouTube channel Ace Dad Advice. That person rocks and will help you unpack what is romance. How do I know when I like someone? Please, we're not affiliated. I do not know this human being, but Ace Dad Advice, seriously. So yes, masking of kinks. So solo play, very unique sensory elements. Like I remember once I watched this mini documentary, and this is like public. I'm not like roasting, so I don't be roasting, but like putting someone on blast, I think is what I meant. It was this person that literally would just like dress up in their kink wear and like hump something. And they did it on camera. They're like, this is what I like to do. I don't fucking care. And I was like, yep, that's part of it. I've actually, we're just going to get a big topic out of the way, and we don't maybe have to talk about it in depth. That's not what I'm presenting on today. There's a lot of neurodivergent humpers. So some old stuff from childhood sometimes hold over because that was usually a private thing that people got shamed for. Rubbing, whatever. And then knew that they had to do it solo and then maybe developed a unique relationship to that. So a lot, another element of solo play, right? Um, very specific scenes being put together too is a big one. Um, or it's like, I want specifically this at this time, or I want like this fantasy played out, and like it kind of needs to meet that specificity to scratch the itch. If it's not, it's kind of like, this doesn't do anything for me. I've heard that a lot over the years and working with folks where they're just kind of like, eh, some stuff is just a lot doesn't do it for me. It needs to be very specific. So what ends up happening is a lot of people will dissociate during sex and intimacy because they'll just be like, well, I should be able to be fine with this because it's normal, and then they're not present. So it's like, okay, not present with partner or partners, and then you're not there. So it's like, what even was this? But it's fear. It's fear and shame. I've probably said this in other presentations if you've ever seen me before. I did not make this up, but I will repeat it until the end of time. Don't should on me. Remember that one. If your brain is saying should, bye, it's so over because now it's a command. There's some sort of command or demand going on. Yes, don't shit all over yourself. You got it. Yeah, that's a danger word. It is. Should, have to, must. Stop shitting on yourself. Yes. So this is a part of masking, is masking of kinks. Now, if we really think about it, and I'm not saying it's just this easy, do we really want to be with somebody that's going to be so pearl clutching and flabbergasted if, like, every once in a while we want to go, I don't know, fucking hump the couch or, masturbate furiously for like, an hour or whatever? Like, what is this? Um, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to be in partnered experiences, by the way, but I'm just saying if we are, or we're interested in that at all, same thing even with friends. If we're open with friends about our like sexual life, like, do we really want people around that are going to be like, what is this? You're offending me. Like, I can't believe you do this. Don't you get enough from me? Another danger statement, but usually something that we hear from other people. So, no. Um, us neurodivergent folks typically have a wide range of needs. That's why I'm kind of glad that even in normie world, that like kink quiz has kind of gotten out there a little bit more. No, it doesn't cover everything, but I appreciate that it's getting out there. It's in the water. People are questioning. Um, yes. Okay. Another part of masking. Masking sensory reactions, masking responses, masking confusion, masking processing, masking the need to pause, the need to move. That was a lot. Okay. Many of us, thanks TV, thanks movies, feel like we always need to look like we're actually performing. Like if you think of dance, if you think of gym, it's always keep that smile up, keep it on, keep it going. Um, yeah, and people carry that over to every part of life. So even in sex, you'll see that folks feel like they always need to be, throwing their head back and moaning, or depending on who they are, looking really stoic and being really quiet. Um, yeah. And just being afraid to actually look how you're looking. Because most of the time, I mean, not to, crap on neurotypicals, that's not the point. But in neuronormative world, everything's supposed to be nonverbal. Nothing's supposed to be talked about or said. So, saying, hey, sometimes my face is going to look a little interesting. I'll let you know if I need to tell you something, but sometimes I've seen people look very frustrated. Like, they would, I've had people tell me, like, oh, my partner looks really frustrated, confused during sex. And then that person would then answer for themselves and be like, I'm trying to process what's happening. Like, I enjoy it, but like to understand all the senses, the elements, the sensory pieces, like, it's taking some time to click in my brain. I've also known a lot of neurodivergent folks to be cracking jokes during sex or previous. And then the other partner might be sitting there, or partners might be like, what do we talk about? We're talking about work, we're talking about jokes, and I'm sitting here without my clothes on. What are we doing? It's like these are the ways that sometimes we process what's about to happen. For a lot of people, I know we touched on with the masking of kinks, that was kind of speaking to a lot of folks deal with understimulation in sex. Like hence I need the specific things, the specific scenes, the things that really make me feel good that are maybe niche to others. But then there's also a lot of people that get overstimulated with sex. Like they're like, I can't use toys because I'm just gonna like my head's gonna blow off, basically. I'm just gonna be like, this is a lot to process. Um, there is a lot if we really think about it. Movement, sound, potentially taste, maybe music's on in the background, maybe there's just other sounds in the house. Like there's a lot to click into. So a lot of times we try to mask our reactions because we don't want the other person to get upset or feel rejected, or think we're weird. Um, Whereas I feel like a lot of times, really like neuro-affirming sex and intimacy is having that be understood, or at least the person, if they are concerned, and if you look frustrated or confused or, went, non-speaking, they can ask, that it's not like this, oh, you're not into it, or oh, you're acting weird, or oh, why you do this, why you do that. Um, Going back to that same point with masking kinks, we don't want these people. We don't want these people around. Uh, if people can't understand basic things of sex as a sensory processing experience, come on. They said, my favorite description of sex is let's get weird with it. Right. It's going to be body sounds and mishaps and goofiness and maybe laughter. Okay. Yes, I love this comment. Synchronicity with all these stimuli is imperative for me to be present versus dissociating during the act. Correct. Yes. Yes. We want to know what's going on and understand it so we can enjoy it. Aren't we allowed? Oh my gosh, like this idea of like I just need to sit here and either be stoic or like putting on this show of sounds, let the show go on, or may the show go on, whatever that statement is. Like that's not fun for a lot of people. and they will end up dissociating. The amount of times I hear neurodivergent folks are dissociating during sex is a lot. And it's mostly because of these things that we've been talking about. I'm shamed for how I initiate. We're not on the same page. I feel rejected. I'm having to hide my kinks. People want me to perform. People are looking at me in a certain way. People are making assumptions about what my neurodivergence will mean for me in sex. You know? Right. Exactly. A natural focus versus a performance. Yeah. And I know y'all here in the adult industry, and sometimes there is a performance. But like I said earlier, we want to make sure it's not tracking into our personal life. Easier said than done, but still something to keep an eye out for and be aware of. Because sometimes we'll get into this. Actually, will we get into it now? Yeah. No, no, not yet. Sorry, I'm just like, let me organize my thoughts. Yes, it's all about finding balance. Another thing that's maybe less masking, more of a sensory piece is, and no one has to answer this if you don't want to, how many times have folks had difficulty with, quote, typical sex items, toys due to texture, viscosity, mouthfeel, temperature? Well, the list can go on. Where people are like, yeah, let's do this or let's do that. And then we're like, what? What is going on? I've heard of many people struggling with like certain types of lube, certain types of condoms, certain types of toys, where it's just, it icks people out. So that I recommend that people talk openly about that because a lot of people do the grin and bear it. Like we've just been talking about with the masking. This is not exactly masking, but we could argue, yeah, see, lube feels icky. Right. A lot of people are just like, what? You know? Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad that y'all are sharing. I know this is, a vulnerable topic, but it's important. Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to just, lock in on Carrie's comment, but as someone with OCD, I need the entire environment to fit. Yes, as an OCD or two, heard. There's a lot of specific needs, but they're just all. Let me just level with y'all, but I know y'all could get it. It's not hard to accommodate people. That's really out of everything we're talking about today. I know, I'm here to kind of maybe highlight some stuff, well, a lot of stuff. It is not hard to accommodate people. It isn't. So, we should not be getting responses of like, oh, well, I just bought that lube last week. I didn't know that you wouldn't like it. Bye. Um, well, I got this toy for you for a gift. Sorry it didn't work out. Bye. Um, you say, hey, actually, I really don't prefer oral. Like it's like quite overstimulating to me to the point of hurting, which I'm glad that y'all brought that up because hurting can sometimes mean you're overstimulated. Now, sometimes you might be like, I'm okay to proceed, and other times you might be like, we've got to shift to another part of the body or take a break. Overstimulation will often feel like pain, where you're just like, like I'm glitching out. We should not be getting the reply of, well, I want to do that. Or, well, that's weird of you. Doesn't everyone like this? Bye. Mm-hmm. Yes. It's so rare that two people's requested accommodations are in direct opposition. Yes. And I love orbiting. I've never heard that as a term. That's a fabulous term. Um, yes. And latex and loop. Yeah, that's the thing. Not hard to accommodate. It's when people's egos get in the way. I mean, I'm not going to go on a rant about neurodivergent lived experience generally. Um, ooh, Okay, I'm actually going to pause that thought. Perceived rejection affects and sensations. Yes, this is the thing. This is the thing. That shame, I mean, brain changes are literally happening. I mean, hello, sex can, release the bonding hormone, oxytocin. There can be stress hormones releasing, not because exactly you're stressed, but because your body is going through a lot. I'm processing a lot. I know people to get very hungry. I've actually known people, diabetic or not, to have blood sugar drops, during intimacy. Yeah, shame kinks, yes. Um, but perceived rejection can absolutely affect sensations. It can dull. I would say that's a big one. It can do many other things because you're so in your mind around not being supported and accommodated, which it's not on you. It's not like, I'm not saying, oh, you're in your mind, that's your choice. No, people would be in their mind about things like this because it's sensitive. It's sensitive. Yeah, like it's very easy, even folks that don't have religious trauma, to just basically feel like you want to curl up in a little tiny ball. That's why accommodating is so important. People's egos getting in the way is where the problem happens. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this to a lot of my clients before, there is no scarcity in accommodations. I always joke, I'm like, who is the one person in the world that gets to cross their arms and go, actually, I'm the only one that has the problem. I'm the only person that gets to be accommodated because I have it the worst. So all of y'all can kick rocks. No, that doesn't exist. But a lot of times we think, well, I've lived this long with it, so I should. We go again, be able to get through, get by, stop. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Or just because you did doesn't mean you should. No, no, no. A lot of time, like, I'll give you an example. This is kind of off the intimacy thing for a quick second. I went to a concert Sunday. It was my favorite band. I was wearing loop earplugs and then my noise canceling headphones on over it, and I was getting some looks. And I was just like, cool. Uh, and I didn't engage with anything about that because I was like, you know what? I'm having a ball. I can still hear the music. It feels good. I can process it better. I let myself jam out when I wanted to. And then other times I sat there looking like a thousand-yard stare. That was accommodating myself. Now people could say, well, you don't need the headphones. I don't care. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know anything about me. Same thing with y'all. People don't need your whole life story. They are not your doctor. They are not your therapist. Even those people, they don't get access to every thought that you have. That's not anyone's right. You have a right to privacy. You have a right to accommodations. Actually, when people come to me and say that they are like, oh, no, well, I can't accommodate myself, or no, that person needs it more. Oh, I've gotten by. I will encourage them, accommodate yourself even more than you thought. You'll almost make yourself a little uncomfortable with how much you're accommodating yourself. And then you'll realize I'm in luxury now. Same thing goes to intimacy. You can be with luxurious people, or if you're more solo, single Pringle, whatever you want to do, a spectrum, whatever the case is, you will find things that you enjoy and stop fighting yourself to be like, well, I bought this 10 years ago and I need to use it. Or, well, people online think this is weird. Great. Good for them. Good for them. Bye. Bye. That's what I always say. I'm always just like wishing all that crap adieu. Um, Yep, the yapping has yapped, so I'm looking at the time. I know I gotta reel it in. So, someone earlier asked about unmasking. I'm gonna do real quick and dirty here. It's not gonna be perfect. Unmasking first starts usually with the body. Sometimes you gotta work backwards with hindsight. Think about the times we all have those moments, right? We leave an event, we leave you know, a partner's house, a friend's house, something, and you get that, you're like, you close the door on your car, your shoulders drop, your stomach goes away from that ball in the stomach to a little bit of a softening. Your face drops from this whatever performance you're giving. Notice that. That tells you probably where you're masking. And then you can determine, do I really want to do those things anymore? Is that somebody I want to be around? Is it a need? I promise you, when you make your own world, there will be a lot to fight through, a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda. People will push back. We got to stay the course. It's listening to that body when you're like, ooh, every time I'm around that person, I feel like I gotta only talk positive, or I can't bring my fidget toy, or they tell me, why aren't you looking me in the eye? I'm not saying that you have to just drop people left and right. You can tell people, hey, this is my truth, and I'm opting out of that. I'm a big opter outer. I was telling my I was telling my spouse earlier, I'm like, every time I opt out of something, I feel more villainous and powerful. Because I've like opted out of like the whole world. I'm like, I'm not gonna have anyone tell me what to do. Like with Christmas coming up, I'm like, I'll hand make you stuff. I'll make you some cookies. I'm not playing the capitalism game of let's pass the same $40 around, buying each other bullshit off our wish list. I'm also not going to rack my brain and put myself in overwhelm to pick the perfect niche gift for adults who can buy it themselves. So yeah, and people got pissed off at me. They were like, "You've taken the joy out of Christmas." That was a real comment made to me, and I was just like, "All right, cool for you, Mom." Not trying to be TMI here, but now she's over it. She's fine. We're all good. And now we're just all shit. She unmasked too. So I'm not saying it's about other people, but you never know when your unmasking will lead to other people being like, oh, you're allowed to not do that? So, yep, opt. So look inwards. Notice when you have just been, yeah, there you go. Exactly. Notice these things. I know we were talking about intimacy today, but just as a big neurodivergent moment, notice when your jaw clenches. Notice when your brow furrows. Notice when you're clenched, when you're sweating, when your stomach feels like you're in martial arts waiting for the jab at your stomach. Notice when your body melts and where that is, and where you feel safe and what you feel safe around, and where you might be performing and putting on a show. And of course, there's times where maybe we have to, for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's just immediately we can just say, screw it all, but just think about that stuff. So I appreciate all of you coming and listening in, and maybe I'll see you in literally 5 minutes when we're doing the panel. Yes, I am accepting new clients. I am not trying to promote. Someone asked. Um, yes. So, yeah, y'all have been great. Thank you for talking with me. I love when people chat and just share their truth. It really makes everything. Was I at Sex Down South? No, I was not. I'm usually at Fetish Con in St. Pete. Sometimes I go to X Biz Miami, and I would kill to do something in Berlin because now I have a special interest in Berlin because I went recently and I was like, oh, someone said quite a long time ago, I'm so sorry. It seems like a higher percentage of neurodivergent or at least ADD are in adult work versus vanilla. Yes. My short answer on that is that it typically allows for more accommodations around time, who's your boss, what you can do, how you can choose to perform. You know, there's definitely a difference between performing for corporate and being like, let's circle back to that. This is really cool. Versus getting to do your own thing in the adult industry. Um, yes. All right. And then I see one more thing. As a mental health provider who aims to provide therapy to folks in the sex worker and our kink community, have therapists negatively impacted folks' experience in the therapy room? Okay, I'll get to that one real quick. Um, a lot, unfortunately. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I've often been told I'm the only person that people have felt comfortable talking about sex, kink, the adult industry. So I feel like we need a lot more training in this part of the field. And I think like I just encourage therapists to lead with curiosity. Tell me more about that. Oh, that sounds unique. How could, I would like to learn more about this for, in order to support you instead of communicating weird negativity. Because a lot of times, right, therapists are ignorant because they just don't know. But you kind of got to know something or at least hold it together enough to go find out. And I am assuming that you, as a provider, are here, trying to do that or already doing that. So it's really just about being curious, right? I would say that for everyone in life. Like, we just got to be more curious instead of like, oh, I've heard weird things about that. Okay, maybe we don't need to tell our client that. That's not going to make them ever want to talk about it again. I know some people will never talk about it ever again. So, recognizing burnout, notice if actually I heavily encourage people to do emotion check-ins. I know they're boring and annoying to a lot of people, sorry. Um, Insight Timer is a meditation app where you can do daily check-ins. I'm always going to ride for the Finch app. Always. That thing has helped me in my own like personal treatment. Great app. Who doesn't want to take care of a bird and it doesn't shame you ever? It's not like Duolingo where it's like, you've hurt my soul, like Finch ain't gonna treat you like that. But it has emotion check-ins. So I think if you're noticing a trend of, yes, duoism in this, noticing a trend of like neutral, neutral, sad, unpleasant, tired, tired, what's making me tired, family, home, work, school, look for trends. A lot of us neurodivergent folks are not great historians, and I say that with love. Um, and sometimes we're like, well, I feel good today, so it's always been good, or I feel bad today, so it's always been bad. We need an Excel spreadsheet, essentially. So tracking that can sometimes help you realize, this hasn't been helping me for a while, or, ooh, I took that job a couple months ago, and now I'm just seeing a crash in my emotion. So it's really not exciting or sexy or interesting, but tracking emotions. I promise it will give you some insight on like what's going on here. When did things change? Excuse me, why am I choking and dying? When did things change? What's going on? So yeah. Oh, app recommendation in the comments. So how are you feeling, app? Like I said, I love Finch. I love Insight Timer. Um, Recommendations for emergency check-in. I don't know if I'm processing this question. I apologize, but maybe like helping you communicate how you're doing with like healthcare folks. If that's the case, I usually encourage you to bring anywhere that you've tracked your like emotions and needs. Some people will track everything in a day. Their water intake, their food, their emotions. Am I taking my meds? What symptoms am I dealing with? And I encourage people bring that information to your appointments. I know with my clients, I do some basic questionnaires, like the PHQ-9. Don't actually like, I don't like it, as in it's not like super cool and informative, but it does help me track trends with folks. It's always okay um, to ask your healthcare providers to help help you out. I mean, already, hopefully they're doing that, but if you're like, hey, check-ins would be helpful, summaries would be helpful. Have you noticed any trends with me? Ask folks. They're supposed to help. Healthcare specialists. Oh, I mean, I always recommend, well, I don't want to, be advicey, but, if I'm acting like the parental Virgo that I am, I'm always like, hey, let's go to the eye doctor. Let's go to the dentist. If we need a gynecologist, let's go to the primary. I do recommend that people have some sort of mental health support. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It can be a support group, things like that. Okay. So, yeah. I am licensed in Florida, which the counseling compact is supposed to be a thing. It's very so I got nothing to say on that end because it was supposed to be live a long time ago. But anyways, all righty.
Hi. Thank you very much.
Hello.
That was wonderful and so engaging and resonates so much there that resonated with me. The kind of the unmasking and realizing like where that might be and feeling in your body of the unmasking and then relating it back to certain situations. And also never knowing when people are flirting or initiating. Big problem. Or I've been single for a very, very long time. As as I said earlier, this whole event wouldn't be possible without our fabulous sponsors who, through their generosity, have made this event possible. So I'd like to say a few words about a couple of our sponsors now. Reveal Me is a creator-first platform built to give performers greater control over their content. Sorry, I'm going to start that again. Reveal Me is a creator-first platform built to give performers greater control over their content, income, and audience relationships. With a focus on transparency, autonomy, and ethical practices, Reveal Me actively works to reduce the pressures creators face behind the scenes. Their support of Pineapple Support reflects a genuine commitment to mental well-being, sustainability, and long-term care for the people who power the industry. Strip Chat, another one of our wonderful sponsors for this event, is a global live streaming platform that connects performers and fans in real time. With a strong focus on creator independence, safety, and innovation, their continued sponsorship over the years has helped Pineapple Support to grow, providing education, therapy, and support services.